Hello friends, Lisa here. Welcome back. I wanted to do a little follow-up on the conversation that I had with Radical Ramblings last night. She was gracious enough to host me for a conversation about a Twitter thread that was really taking the temperature of radical feminists on Twitter, and it was super fascinating and a great jumping off point for really, really good discussion. I also want to thank all the women in the chat for just making it so amazing. The level of discourse you ladies bring is always just so on point, really good, really impressive. And also the fact that you're also respectful of each other and of us. And even when we don't 100% agree on everything, we're all able to do this consciousness raising together. And I just think it's like the best environment. I'm so grateful for this community. I don't normally go on Twitter. I've spoken about how I really think it's a very toxic environment. I think it taps into that, dopamine center in our brain that gets really fired up and energized by blood sport, by being a part of it and fighting with each other, or witnessing people fighting with each other. It's sort of like that MMA, Real Housewives kind of thing. I don't know why we all have that, but we seem to. And Twitter definitely taps into that. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy. That being said, I did go on Twitter for a few days. Started out with one night that I had really bad insomnia. I was up from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. with like nothing to do. It seemed like a lot of the conversations happening on Radtwt were centered on who can label themselves as a radical feminist and getting into a lot of micro minutia of who is and isn't a radical feminist. People really pouring lots and lots of energy into this specific conversation. And I just think it's such a waste of time. I think that time, energy, effort would be much better spent raising awareness about some of the many issues that are affecting women right now. Every day I'm reading 4 or 5 news stories of very diverse topics, anything you could possibly be interested in regarding women's rights and women's oppression. There's just so much out there right now. To focus on whether a woman has to do XYZ perfectly in order to call herself radical feminist is just so pointless to me. I've seen women there, and I've seen women in this community even say, well, I used to call myself a radical feminist, but I'm not perfect. And so now I just call myself Rad-leaning. And I think that's moving in the wrong direction for us. I think radical feminism should be a little more inclusive of women who want to benefit from some of the ideas of radical feminism and also want to do the work, do the activism, and we should be welcoming of those women, those who are willing to do it. That being said, I am definitely kind of a purist when it comes to radical feminist framework and what should fit in it and not fit in it. I made a community post the other day of someone on Twitter, like this is the other side of it. They're the gatekeeping women on one side and they're the let me in women on the other side. And I saw a post where a woman was actually arguing that pro-life is a part of radical feminism, which it's not. So, there have to be hard lines drawn somewhere. But some of the lines getting drawn they're exclusionary to the point of uselessness. It's really a step backwards to exclude certain kinds of women. We have to ask ourselves, is radical feminism more important as a label, or is it more important as a framework and more important as a movement towards liberation of individual women and women as a class? What's more important, the label or the framework and the movement? One of the topics we explored last night is whether radical feminism is exclusive of mothers, women who date or marry men, and women who perform femininity, wear makeup, shave, etc. And the answer to that is it's not exclusive of those women at all. Both Radical and I have many women in our communities who fit those characteristics. What radical feminism says is those things are not paths to liberation. And in many ways, those things are used as tools of oppression by the patriarchy. But I think what a lot of people hear when they hear that is they jump ahead and take it as a personal attack and that it's personally excluding them. They're saying, well, I wear makeup and radical feminism is critical of makeup and therefore radical feminism is critical of me. And that's not the case at all. No one should be taking that as a personal attack. You are not makeup, actually. So radical feminism is critical of makeup. Radical feminism is not critical of you. And same thing with motherhood. Radical feminism looks at the way motherhood is used as a tool of oppression and the ways in which mothers are oppressed under patriarchy. That's not saying mothers are excluded from our conversations or excluded from using this framework to view the world or excluded from doing activism that moves us forward or excluded from doing things in their own lives that could lead to a more liberated way of thinking or living. So I've said this many times before that there's no velvet rope. There really is no gatekeepers. We don't have membership cards. This is a tool that we can use to better our lives and better the lives of all women. It's never going to work if we're all at each other's throats trying to figure out who is this and who isn't this. Again, that's up to a degree because women who are really espousing anti-feminist ideas and trying to come into this community and disseminate those ideas with authority, that's where we should draw the line on those things. But women who are here to learn and who aren't perfect are perfectly welcome in radical feminism and as radical feminists. There is no perfection expectation. I think that's really something that can hold us back a lot. And again, I think these conversations I'm seeing are so universal to Radfem Twitter are just a total waste of time. I have avoided more or less for a pretty long time not doing any meta kind of discussion about the community because I do think it's like a pretty big waste of time. I've tried to maintain and cultivate Peaceful Island with Radical Ramblings and a few of the other women here in the orbit. I think it's been just much better. I really do. These kind of meta conversations about struggling amongst ourselves, I hate the term infighting, but that ends up being just like a waste of time. No one should be precious with any labels. Leave that to the TRAs. That's like their vibe, right? Leave that to the id pollers. We don't need to be precious with our labels. And there's one final thing that I want to touch on while I'm here, because who knows when I'll be back. I'm making videos so sporadically lately, which is the idea that some women are critical of using radical feminism as a self-help tool. And we talked about this a little bit last night, but I think it's great as a self-help tool. And also, why are we stigmatizing self-help? Self-help is a really good thing. It allows us to improve ourselves and look at our lives and be critical about how we're living and make improvements. So I think self-help is a beautiful thing, and I think using radical feminism as self-help is a beautiful thing. Nothing wrong with that at all. The critiques I've seen of that is, you're turning radical feminism into this individualistic or libertarian type thing. Joan of Arc just made a video about this, and she said, put your oxygen mask on first, and I'm such a huge believer of that. We can also be role models to other women by doing the work on ourselves first. And I think that is actually an important form of activism. Those are just some thoughts. I would love to hear what you have to say. And hopefully I'll see you not before too long. Okay, take care. Bye.